topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask the Experts show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV, where we bring you educational information from top local experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Now sit back and listen to experts in family law, association law, hearing loss, business brokers, home care, along with many other topics. Now here are your hosts, Steve-O and Sophia.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome to another Ask the Expert show where we bring you the finest experts in the field of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. I'm going to start off the show a little bit different today. I'm a prayer counselor at my church, and one of the things I've learned is prayer is really valuable, and I hope that everybody is praying for the people in Israel, because prayer does work. Don't just say, I'm praying for them. Really do it, because it's going to be really tough on families in Israel over the next week, month, or however long it lasts. But I just want to ask people, and I know our expert coming up, Attorney Julia Dean, is saying the same thing. Just keep everybody in Israel in prayer. Thank you. Hi, Julia.
Yes, for sure. Thank you. And we are praying, and we'll continue to. And our hearts are just hurting for that situation.
It's just really sad what's going on, and Israel is very important, but we'll move on. Yeah, I'm always glad to see you.
Good to see you.
I love what you do, Julia. There's a lot of different areas of law, and when it comes to estate planning, it takes a certain type of attorney to handle estate planning. And I'm going to say this, it's got to be someone who's got a big heart for others. And you do. You've been doing this for a long time. You've developed a unique law firm. And I love how you treat the law when it comes to estate planning. And it's so cool. You've won so many awards, but just tell people, share about your practice and your experience with our listeners and viewers.
Oh, thank you, Steve. Well, I've had the privilege of working in this incredible area, you're right, of estate planning and the related areas of probate and guardianship and elder law. Special needs trust, just being able to help our community and help people proactively or come alongside them in a difficult time. So I'm so grateful for that, and kind of out of the litigation fray and into really helping people on a day-to-day basis. And it's just a joy to be in that area. And so I'm grateful. I have a team of 9, and that we all work together, and all have that same kind of heart to help people and make their lives better and proactively plan and to really provide a different level of service. We're always looking for 5-star service, but for everyone and all of our clients, and always trying to improve those processes so that every client feels like not only are their needs being addressed and listened to, but they're getting the most excellent work product as a result, so that we can avoid those issues in the future.
In the field that you're in, and today we're going to be discussing family dilemmas.
Yes.
and what can arise from these family dilemmas, what you can do for these families that encounter difficulties, situations that they
Yes.
might not have planned on. And what you do is you open up your client's eyes to things that could happen that they would have never thought of on their own.
That's true. We're always kind of thinking about what if this, what if that, and really trying to recognize all the difficult situations that could be out there that you're not even anticipating and we hope would never happen to you. And our goal is that by the time you have planned your estate, that we've reduced that possibly so much or eliminated it that your family will not even know those difficult issues that will come up.
Yeah, sometimes I look at you like you have this long list in your head, this checklist, and it's very long, isn't it?
It is. It's all these things I want to avoid for you all, and whenever I plan, and just sometimes we end up laughing because I was like, okay, then what if this and what if that, and it's just like, well, that's so removed, but it could happen, and so we're always thinking in terms of that.
But Julia, on there, people would probably never even think of half the things that can happen. What are some of the dangers of not having an estate plan?
Well, the dangers of not having an estate plan are being exposed to court proceedings. And those are court airships to determine who are your heirs and who gets what and how they get it. And for yourself, if you are in a disability situation, a court guardianship, which means they decide everything about you. Excuse me, who would take care of you, who would handle your finances, who would make your medical decisions, who's making your living decisions. And you have absolutely no say or right, and they're stripping away all your rights. So you can't vote, you can't marry, you can't do all these other things. And so it just is not a kind of disability planning situation we want. And it's very expensive because we always have to go to court to get approval for everything that we do. So both airships and guardianships, if we have done no estate plan, are very costly and time consuming.
I'll bet you sometimes you get clients that you go, gosh, I wish they would come to me earlier. I could have really helped them.
Yes, yes. And actually, I'm thinking about one that they did come to me, but they procrastinated. And so that's just as bad because then we still didn't have something.
Exactly.
It was a husband and wife, and the husband had just been diagnosed with Alzheimer's. And so they knew they needed something in place, and we talked about it, and we got a great plan, but it was never implemented because they never chose to move forward with it. And so years later, they come in, the wife is frantic because she can't get access to these accounts that she needs for them to live on. And she needs help with his care, and they have nothing in place. And so our only other choice at that point was guardianship. And it was heartbreaking to me because we could have avoided all of that. And then, of course, in the guardianship case, not all the children were on board. And so then there was a conflict between the family, again, that we didn't need to have. And, all of that costs more money, as you argue about that in court. So it was just a heartbreaking situation that they didn't go ahead and plan. It's always better if we can pre-plan, avoid those costs, avoid any kind of emergency planning, because you can do so much more pre-planning than you can in emergency planning. So, the dangers are just, or for yourself, that you're going to have the care, you're not going to have the care you need. You're not going to have the people that you want in, taking care of you the way you want to. Just your assets may be dwindled because of all of this. And you put your family at risk because it is more costly to go get a guardianship. It is more costly to take care of your care. If you maybe could have qualified for Medicaid, but now you're not, now somebody's going to have to come up with that. And it may be the children, it may be other family members. So it's a very difficult situation. So definitely went bad because they procrastinated.
Yeah. We just got a text in from a listener. Sugarland. That sounds
Oh,
familiar,
nice.
doesn't it?
It does. It's a great place, sweet place.
Listen, you know what? And I bet you there's so many people who are thinking the same question.
Mm.
He said, I don't want to seem dumb, but what is estate planning?
Oh, that's a great question. So estate
Yeah,
planning, yeah, it really is. I mean,
it's
we
not
talk
a
about
dumb
it all the
question.
time, but most people think in terms of wills and powers of attorney. So that is what estate planning is. We're looking at your entire estate. We're saying, okay, how can we provide for you in disability and upon your passing? And so it's really kind of a combination of a legacy plan, who gets what and how they get it, and a disability plan. You know, who's going to take care of you in your incapacity, who's going to step in and make those financial and medical and living decisions. And then it's more than that, that a lot of people don't think of, and that is tax planning to avoid death taxes. Sometimes we're doing income tax planning or capital gains planning. And it's also planning to avoid situations where assets may be lost to a divorce. So we can be working with that either with you all or with your children or grandchildren, making sure what you've given them won't be dissipated, their legacy because of a divorce. And, you know, it's just thinking about, okay, how do we amplify that legacy too? If we can minimize taxes or eliminate them, how can we amplify that for generations to come with dynasty trust planning?
You know, it's that was really a good question, and I was just
Mhm.
thinking about it. You know, people think estate planning, estate, and
Yeah.
they think you have to own some big mansion, you have to be a multi-millionaire, and that's just not the case, is it?
No, it's not. And even like people think trust planning is only for the very wealthy too. And you know, we use living trust a lot as a foundation for as an alternative to just a will. And that's one way that we can avoid probate and avoid a guardianship. So those two main things that we said were very costly. If we did a living trust, then we could avoid both of those. And in a just a less expensive way than even a will and going through probate. You know, we're not even thinking about the guardianship costs that we're saving. So, you know, we do want a good foundation, either a will or a living trust, but I usually recommend a living trust. There are some scenarios I don't, but generally a living trust is going to be much better for you. And our estate can, you know, it can be a small estate, it can be a medium, it could be a large estate, but all of us need planning. All of us need protections and disability. We need to decide, you know, what happens to our assets and how they receive them, because how they receive them could be a major issue and a dilemma that comes up, you know, if we have some, you know, kids or family members that are not good with money. You know, we want to think about how do we protect them too. You know, what if we have special needs individuals? We don't want to disqualify them from needs-based government assistance. You know, what if we just want to make sure that, you know, our child that's doing really well, a doctor, you know, but could be subject to malpractice claims, how do we protect assets for them? You know, how do we take our retirement funds and amplify them so that they're even more beneficial as we go through the generations? So there's a lot
So,
of things we look at.
what would you say a good estate plan consists of?
Well, sometimes I think of it like a recipe, you know, we want to have
Yeah,
all the right ingredients there, you know, and just make sure it
it
all works.
is.
And, you know, we have to carefully test it and measure it over time. And we've got to think through it. We've got to refine it. And, you know, just like those recipes get better over time as we work with them, if it's done correctly, it's going to be a really pleasant thing. It's going to leave you with a sense of peace that you've taken care of it and that you'll know that it will be implemented well in the future because it's working now and you've got the right pieces in place and you've thought about all the what ifs and they're in your plan. And so Yeah, a good recipe can be awesome. Just having it can be delicious at the end. If you just
Yeah,
you want to
there's
leave people with a good taste in your mouth, right? When you pass away.
now you're making me hungry
And
now.
I'm thinking about chocolate chip cookies. Isn't that
Yeah.
bad?
In my case, you know what? So I'm in Florida, you're in Texas. How about just some chicken fried steak
There you
with
go,
cream
chicken
gravy?
fried steak. Yeah, that's a good one. And kind
They
of
don't know
barbecue.
about that here in
Yeah.
Florida. They don't know about that. So now there's different types of powers of attorney. There's financial power, uh, there's medical power. Do you handle all that?
I do. So even with a living trust, for example, we'll still want your financial power of attorney because that will deal with assets outside the trust. If we just have a will, that's all you're relying on. That's why I like the living trust, because then we're not just depending on a financial power of attorney that the financial institution may or may not take. But the financial power of attorney, it's very important. It go beyond our state statutory form, which is what most people pull off the internet. We want to make it so that those financial institutions are more likely to honor that. So it's much more robust. We want to talk about the different powers that your agent has or does not have. And we want to allow for some long-term care planning. So maybe your agent needs to do it on your behalf because you're incapacitated, but we need to do some asset protection or other long-term care planning, or getting a caregiver in place, or taking care of different things for you. So that needs to be in your power of attorney. And then ability to do some tax planning. So maybe you didn't need tax planning when you did your estate plan to begin with, but now you do, and now you're incapacitated. Now it gives your agent the ability to do that. So we really enhance our financial power of attorneys, so it is much more robust and handles the what ifs and getting in place, the tax planning and the long-term care planning. Now, the other power of attorney you had mentioned is a medical power of
Medical.
attorney. And those two are just critical documents. You've got to have them with a will or living trust. Excuse me. You have got to have a financial and medical power of attorney. Those are the two crucial pieces: the financial to handle financial matters, the medical to handle your medical decisions. So if we have someone named in those roles, and then hopefully also a living trust, then we always have someone who can act on our behalf when we can't. So the medical power of attorney, we're naming someone who can make those medical decisions for you when you can't. Now, unlike a financial power of attorney that we can make effective immediately, medical agents can only operate when you don't have capacity to make that decision anymore. So if you make a decision beforehand and then you go into surgery, they can't change your decision. But what they can do is, if you haven't made that decision, they can make a decision for you. And then, of course, you can do some end of life planning if you'd like, with some directives to physicians or do not resuscitate orders. So a directive to physicians would be whether or not you want artificial life support. So artificial life support is there are things like heart machines, ventilators, kidney dialysis, tube feedings, and IV fluids. So you can say, I would like some of those, or I would like, I don't want these. I do want these. I want some of it, but for a certain period of time. And so this allows us to, make some choices of whether or not you want those interventions. And that will speak for you when you can't speak for yourself. And then a do not resuscitate order would be that you do not want them to resuscitate you. Should you go into cardiac arrest, they wouldn't shock your heart back. They wouldn't do any active airway management. So if you want the opportunity to get to the hospital to see, is this an irreversible or a terminal condition that the directive would come into play, then you don't want a DNR. But if you've decided you've been through so much, you don't want any more, then that's when you sign an out of hospital do not resuscitate order. Now the hospitals have their own, but this is out of hospital one.
Julie, what I keep we've been doing this now for several years, but I start thinking about Terry Shively.
Yes.
I mean, that's
All the
probably
time.
pretty good example of wanting to get your affairs in order, isn't it?
Yes. I mean, I think that was over a decade. I mean, it was a long time, at
Long
least
time
20
ago,
years.
but it was a big
Yeah.
case.
Yeah, it was a big case out of Florida. And it was, just she was on artificial life support and her husband wanted her off, her family wanted her on. It was a big argument in court. And,
Yes.
she was on it for years and years because of the difference of opinion. And had she had a directive in place, it would have never occurred. I mean, I do
Right.
see that doctors try to work with a family before they remove artificial life support, but they'll make that decision eventually, utilizing your directive and doing what you want to do. But sometimes they'll be a little delayed to try to get you on board, but which is okay because it's a pretty major thing. But to be years and years of artificial life support is just unbelievable and hard on everybody.
God, every time we do our show, I've got so many questions. Here's one I know I've never asked you before. As you know, I was in the hospital a couple weeks ago, and they never asked me if I had power of attorney, if I'd given an attorney, power of attorney.
Really?
How did they know about resuscitation, or is it just something that hospital missed and didn't ask?
Yeah, they really did miss. Usually they will ask you as part of your check-in for a procedure, or if you end up in the hospital, they'll start asking you those questions. Sometimes if it's a more emergency situation, they just intervene and then hope that you do have those later. But ultimately, if you don't have that in place, no one can have access, like in a HIPAA authorization. We need someone to have access to even talk to the doctors and nurses. They won't talk to you. They won't talk to a spouse, or a child, or, any loved one about your situation without your consent, because they're liable personally if they do. So, I'm shocked that
Well, they
that they
did
didn't
ask
ask
me.
you,
They did ask me what what I wanted to do with my organs, and I said, I don't. I have a violin, but no organ. No. Sometimes we get too serious here, but no. But so should people make sure that if they are hospitalized, that they let the hospital know that they've got an attorney for medical power of attorney?
Yes, they definitely should. We actually do for our clients, we do a legal vault program where we scan, put their documents online, and they can get to all of their estate planning documents, their trusts, their wills, their powers of attorney. But we also give them a card that they can put with their health insurance card or ID.
Very
If they
good.
go to our website, they put in a separate password and it gets just to the medical documents. It can list doctors and emergency contacts and medical information, medications, allergy alerts, things like that. Sometimes there's even a place you can say, I have pets at home, or I'm watching a grandchild, or whatever, on certain days, so they know to get someone over there right away. And so that's a really nice thing. Whether if you have incapacity, of course, I always say put it with your health insurance card or ID, so they'll look for that and they'll find it. But also, if you have capacity, just checking into the hospital, you don't have to bring all your documents. So it's really nice.
Wonderful. Well, the show goes by so fast. First of all, give everybody your phone number, Julia.
It's 281-277-3326.
And what is your website?
It's juliadeanlaw.com. So JuliaDeanLaw.com. So we'd love to help you.
Well, I just noticed that's a beautiful flower behind you.
Yes, I got it for Boss's Day. So nice.
Oh, you did? Oh, good. Julia, we love you. You'll be back with us the first Friday in November. Julia's with us every month. For those of you who I didn't get to answer your questions, we will do it next month.
Good. Looking forward
I
to
promise you. Have a good one.
All right.
And we're going to go to break. We will be right back. Thanks, Julia.
You're welcome. Have a wonderful day.
You too.
Bye-bye.
K. Bender Rembaum is a full-service community association law firm dedicated to the representation of community associations throughout Florida. On kbrlegal.com, you can learn more about their offices in Pompano Beach, Palm Beach Gardens, Orlando, Tampa, as well as throughout Miami-Dade by appointment. Several K. Bender Rembaum attorneys are board-certified specialists in condominium and plan development law and assist clients with all matters of community association legal issues while keeping them up to date on new developments that affect their associations. K. Bender Rembaum is also a well-known provider of free legal education for managers and board members. Contact K. Bender Rembaum today by calling 800-974-0680. That's 800-974-0680 to reach any of their locations. You can also visit them online at kbrlegal.com or write to them at info@kbrlegal.com.
And we are back with the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV with your hosts, Steve-O, Sophia, and their expert guests.
And we are back. Oh, do we have a great expert coming on right now. And the reason why I say she is such a great expert is I have sleep apnea. I used to snore. And I got to tell you, I know what it's like to have sleep apnea. I really know what it's like to have to use a CPAP machine. There is nothing comfortable about it. And about 6 months ago, we hooked up with our next guest. And what is so amazing about her is that she developed a technique. And you don't even have to have sleep apnea. You could just snore. But she has a technique that I know that works so well because she put me on it. And we're going to talk about that. Welcome, Janet Bennett.
Hello. Thanks for having me on.
God, you know what, Janet? I don't just like having you on. I love having you on.
Thanks for loving having me on.
Well, no, but what you have done, Janet, I don't even realize you know how big a deal it is, even though you did a huge survey, a polling, and you found out how well your technique works. The thing I love about Janet is she never told me one time that I can get rid of your CPAP machine. She never said that. And she's a speech pathologist, but she never made any promises to me. She just has something that works. So, Janet, first of all, tell people about yourself and about your practice.
Okay. Well, I am a speech pathologist and have a master's degree in it. And I've been working for many more years that I'm going to tell you. Okay. So I'll tell
stop
you.
with the joke.
So I'll tell you, I'm going to assume that there are a lot of people listening and watching today who snore. And I feel that those people who snore, if they've not talked to someone like myself, they don't realize how many different symptoms they may have that are directly related to the snoring, which is because of mouth breathing. So I want to make that connection for the people on today. But first, I'll tell you how I learned about snoring. The only thing I knew about snoring was that my ex-husband snored, and I know I was miserable. Okay, and I just couldn't believe I had to try to sleep in that. And that was so long ago. I didn't think I didn't have a I didn't have the internet to to look up and say, what do I do? But anyway, so I understand now whenever I help somebody stop snoring, their significant other who sleeps with them also benefits just as much
Absolutely.
as the person who snored. So it's a double whammy.
Did your ex-husband, admit that he snored, had a
Well,
snoring problem?
I never asked him if he snored. I don't know that anybody else did. I just complained about his snoring. No questioning. But what could he do? He's like, oh,
Well, I know I would never admit it, and a lot of snorers
right,
will say, "Oh, I don't snore," but we know that they
right,
do.
right. And I've looked in the eyes of many couples when they look at each other and lie, saying, "I don't snore." Yeah, I'm like, what? Why are you both here to see me if you don't snore? But
Yeah, really.
but anyway, it's a social stigma. You know, people make fun of the noise and all that. You know, we really maybe shouldn't call it snoring. Just refer to it as mouth breathing while you're sleeping because that's what it is. When you're mouth breathing, um, the air goes in and out and it makes that snoring noise. So anyway, but people don't know that. So I really want to educate people on how bad it is to mouth breathe. But first, let me go back to the year of 2003. I was treating a 14-year-old football player for a tongue thrust. And if y'all don't know what that is, I want you to Google it. You'll find out what it is. It's just that you swallow incorrectly, and you probably are a mouth breather, and that leads to snoring, and that leads to sleep apnea. So let's go back. So this 14-year-old football player came to see me every week for different tongue exercises because I was training his tongue to live back in his mouth more and all the good stuff. So he had done 2 weeks of exercises and he came to see me on the third week and his mother stuck her head in the door and she said, "What are you doing to Adam?" And I said, "I don't know. What do you mean?" And she said, "He's always been the loudest snorer in the world. Our windows rattle." She said, "And now he's not making a sound." I didn't know anything about snoring, but it sounded good. So I said, "Adam, tell me more. What's this all about?" And he said, "Well," I said, "I don't know. I'm doing better in school. I can concentrate better and I run faster." So when he said he ran faster, I knew what that meant, and I knew that that had to have something good at the end of it, you know. And quickly, I'm going like, "What are we doing?" He's just doing tongue exercises. Okay, well, we're going to investigate this. So that is what I did. I investigated that, and I just really knew that I was going to find that there were treatments out there that involved tongue exercises to help people stop snoring, but that wasn't it at all. I was appalled at all the different bad treatments that they offered. They could cut off your uvula, that thing that hangs down in the back, or break your jaw, pull it forward so your airway's bigger, or put that Darth Vader mask on you for the CPAP. And I have to add, back then, only 4% of the people who had been issued a CPAP were actually using it. Now
Amazing.
that's huge. So let me break loose just a minute. A CPAP, a person uses it because they stop breathing when they sleep. And every time they stop breathing while they sleep, their heart stops. So if a person stops breathing 46 times a minute or 60 times a minute, that's a lot of heart stopping. And it's really making their heart weaker. Of course, there's danger of heart attack. But let's go back to those 96% of the people who had been issued a CPAP, but they weren't using it. And they had
Amazing.
no one to go to, no one else to go to. And I just feel badly about that. And so it just helped me become more passionate about getting the word out and helping more people, hopefully to stop snoring before they ever got sleep apnea. Okay, so I found, if you will, 86 people all over the United States who said they would be my guinea pigs and try my exercises to stop snoring. Now, literally, these people were all over the United States. And we didn't have Zoom. So each week I would call them the night of their lesson, and I would email them the lesson. And we literally did it over the phone. As they read the exercise, I made sure they knew how to do the exercise, and they would go away for a week, and I'd meet back with them. Anyway, all 86 people. It took 8 months to treat everybody. And after that was done, guess how many stopped snoring? 94%.
Amazing.
94% of 86 people stopped snoring. 11 of those were using CPAPs. And what did I say? 3 of those got
Janet,
off.
I want to say something, because we talk about, especially, the patient, the 14-year-old patient, and that was doing better in school. The reason why is, first of all, when you have sleep apnea, or if you're snoring, you do not get a good night's sleep.
Right.
You're constantly being woken up. So that's why you're tired. So that football player, what he discovered was your techniques were working for him, and he was able to sleep through the night. I mean,
Right.
that is
Right.
one of the biggest things.
And see, here's the other thing. That only happened in 2 weeks. 2 weeks of exercise.
Yes.
Now, come on. Probably practice 20 minutes a day for 2 weeks. Easy peasy. You're absolutely right, because whenever you mouth breathe and you don't sleep, you're foggy in the brain. Foggy. You're not real sure, So as a teenager, you are not getting into those math problems at all.
You fall
So
asleep sitting down.
that's right. So anyway, so 94% stopped snoring. And I knew that I had to save the world. And finally, I was talked into the fact that I couldn't. And so I decided to make a program, a therapy program, a treatment program, whatever you want to call it. It's just 7 weeks of tongue exercises that make all of the muscles in your tongue stronger and more toned. We also have a way to make your tongue skinnier, which I'll talk about in a minute, because the goals are easy. You want to learn how to breathe through your nose. So if you can't breathe through your nose, go to your ear, nose, and throat doctor and get them to fix it before you do these exercises, okay? Because it won't work if you can't breathe through your nose, but it works beautifully if you can. Okay, so we want you to learn how to breathe through your nose. And the other big thing is you will train your tongue to live up there on the roof of your mouth. And that space up there is smaller than the space down there where your tongue is now resting. A lot of people tell me their tongue just wiggles all the time. And they will tell me, I don't know what to do with my tongue. Now, to me, that's kind of strange, because mine's in one place. But a lot of people, their tongue is always moving. And when I tell them where it should go, they were like, wow. Thank you. That's all I needed to know, or whatever.
I thought when you told me that, Julie, I went, huh? My tongue, how do I train my? I mean, you're like wondering, but her program is so good that it actually took me about a week to train my tongue.
I know. It was amazing.
It's so amazing that if you do this this is just one of the exercises. If you just do this one, it does train your tongue.
I know. And the other big thing with you, Steve, that I noticed was when we first met talking about this, you were telling me how you bite your tongue, the sides of your tongue so much.
All the time.
And I think by the second week, you were not biting your tongue anymore.
I don't bite my tongue anymore.
Okay, what happened?
I probably had tongue thrust.
You did. But what happened? So how did you stop biting your tongue? Well,
I
you were
reduced
okay.
the
I'll
size
go
of
ahead
my
and introduce it. I'll have to introduce the tongue stick. This is my buddy, the tongue stick. And I invented this tongue stick. And I know it looks weird, but it does some great things.
It
Um,
does.
and I have a patent on it. That's how important it is. But what Steve did with this stick was he literally stroked the sides of his tongue in a certain area to make contact with certain muscles that would make that tongue squinch up like that, and it would make it skinnier.
It
And
really does work.
it really does work, and it really does work because the tongue muscles have memory. There's muscle memory. And so it stays that way because you keep talking and eating and using your tongue. And so it just keeps it strong the way those muscles are going to make it. It's really um, almost unbelievable. I mean, I know why people question it so much because you won't find, well, nowadays tongue exercises are becoming more and more known. Okay. And that's good. I know there was a group in Brazil several years ago who did some tongue exercises, and my first thought was, "Oh my, I have a competitor." And then I got to see their exercises, and they weren't anything that I would think about doing, and they had like a 38% success rate. So I was like
Yeah, but Janet,
breathing
if you
lightly.
see, you know what? If you think about what you do, what you're doing versus putting a piece of tape on your nose, that's a big commercial. It's on TV. Your your concept makes
I
sense.
know. I know. It makes sense to me. But before, okay, so before I describe the program, I want to share a few symptoms that you viewers and listeners, you probably have some of them. So listen just for a few minutes, okay? Because these are things that I found a person has when they mouth breathe a lot of the time. Wake up tired, even though you were in bed for 8 or 9 hours, you shouldn't wake up tired. You wake up with a dry mouth. And some people say, no, my mouth's not dry because I drink a big old gallon of water in the middle of the night. So, so then maybe your mouth may not be dry. but, but that's why, because you drank the water. Some people are irritable when they wake up in the morning. So if you've got kids who are really irritable, or a spouse, I mean, you can bet on the fact that they are probably mouth breathing. Okay. Let's see some other things. You
How
might
about
have.
dry eye? Remember
I
dry eye?
know. I know, dry-eyed. Now, I've not heard about
I
that
had
except
dry
for
eye.
you. So, yeah, okay. So I'll wait and see if I find somebody else like that. You might have bad dreams. Okay, a lot of people have bad dreams. So let me look at my little cheat sheet here. You might wake up with a sore throat that goes away pretty quickly, or a headache that goes away pretty quickly. You might have, well, you would definitely have daytime sleepiness. If you were breathing through your
Yes.
mouth, that's the other big symptom that points to mouth breathing. And it'll happen about 1 o'clock in the afternoon after lunch. And but all of these things that I'm naming for you right now, these things will disappear when you do the tongue exercises. And that's why I want you to know that going into looking at the tongue exercises. Oh my goodness, I do all these different things. You mean it could possibly help all these things too? If you have asthma, asthma gets worse when you're breathing through your mouth because there's cold, dirty air going in. What if you
Mhm.
stop breathing cold, dirty air? Would that change your asthma? Just think about that. I'm not a doctor, but I'll just lead you the right direction. Heartburn. I had a friend who was 50 years old and she ate a bottle, big old bottle of those things that you chew. What are they? Rolaids.
Roll it.
Every day, a whole bottle, just all day. And after she did my exercises, she didn't need the bottle. That's all I'm going to say about that. You might have stomach aches after you eat. You might have chronic coughing. What does that have to do with anything? Or chronic throat clearing? restless leg syndrome. Restless leg syndrome is now referred to as a sleep deprivation symptom. They always said it was a neurological problem. And when my clients started telling me that their legs weren't restless anymore, I just couldn't understand how these exercises would help a neurological
My
problem.
sheets were everywhere, and it
Yeah,
was from restless legs.
right. Restless sleeper. And you might have trouble swallowing pills, not because of mouth breathing, but because your tongue doesn't know what to do. So think about that. If you have trouble swallowing pills, you may get up to go to the bathroom more than one time a night. You are officially allowed one time a night. But if you get up more, that's a sign of something. Let's see. Some kids, and maybe adults too, but older kids who are still bedwetting. Did you know that they're mouth breathing and that's why they're bedwetting? I mean, if they don't have any UTIs or anything, of course. And another thing that's huge with adults is that they feel like there's something stuck in their throat. So all of these different symptoms I'm listing are symptoms, like I said, that can be helped by the tongue exercises. And so I have made a program that has 7 lessons. Is that 7? I never can. It's backwards. It has 7 lessons, and you do exercises. You get new exercises one time a week. You have to promise to practice them twice a day because you've got to make new habits, and your brain needs repetition, repetition. It's real easy. I have a website you can go to, and I'll do the exercises with you. Or I have a website you can go to, and you can see me teaching an adult male how to do the exercises. So you might be thinking, I'll do it online by myself. You would not be by yourself. I'm there every step of the way. And also now, as soon as a person purchases this program, they contact me and we schedule a 45-minute training or consult just so I can meet with you and see if you have any other special issues going on that I can help you with. And that's huge. It gives you some faith in the program, and I think confidence that you will make it through these easy exercises. Okay, so
It's so much easier than wearing a CPAP machine at at night to sleep in.
I know. So I just quickly here want to tell you the relationship between snoring, sleeping, breathing. Okay. Before I do that, some people have a very wide tongue. If you have a wide tongue, that's all you need to tell me because I know you are going to be breathing through your mouth. Because when you lay down and everything relaxes, your lips fall open. Because the tongue is so wide, it gets lazy, spreads out. Anyway, so that's a huge thing. But this tongue stick I was telling you about is what has helped so many people make their tongue skinnier so it fits in their mouth. Steve, remember the feeling from
Oh,
a
yeah.
really wide tongue to a less wide tongue?
Oh, my, it's such a
And
difference.
and I bet when you're talking, doesn't it feel a little different when you talk now? It's like your
It
tongue
does.
doesn't run into everything.
But the greatest thing is, now remember, I've been on a CPAP machine, but it's so uncomfortable. And because we only have a few minutes left, I
Go
just
ahead.
want to tell everybody that I have not used my CPAP machine in 2 weeks at all. And snoring wakes you up. And I have not snored since I've started doing your techniques. And I,
I'm
you
so
know what,
proud of you.
I don't do them every single day because but I know that I got to do them at least 2 or 3 times a week
Okay,
because
but
it's either that or the CPAP machine.
right. But let me throw this in real quickly. Once you do all the lessons, exercises, and you are sleeping great, everything's going good. There's a little maintenance program that's attached, but you are not going to have to do exercises for the rest of your life.
Right.
Okay, but
But
if
it
anything,
works though. I
no,
mean, it works. Uh,
right.
I was just amazed.
Okay. Well, let me tell them how to find me.
Yes,
Go
please.
to www.correctmytonguethrust.com or www.ijustwanttosleep.com. You can email me at author, AUTHOR, at ijustwanttosleep.com. My phone number is 828-273-9888. I will answer you. We can Zoom, we can meet, whatever. But you need this program if you are not sleeping well so that you can sleep well and be a brand new person.
If you have relatives in other states, snore, it doesn't matter where they live. I'm telling you, Janet can help them.
Yes.
And it makes a huge difference. And you're like, give them the phone number one more time, Janet.
828-273-9888.
I'm telling you, Janet, thank you so much. Have
Thank
a
you.
wonderful weekend.
Okay.
And Janet will be back with us again next month
Okay.
on the Ask the Expert show. Thank you, Janet.
Thank you.
And
Bye-bye.
everybody have a great weekend. God bless.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk 4 TV. Tune in next week and every week to hear more from our experts on personal injury, insurance, air condition repairs, estate planning, Medicare, and many other topics in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. See you next week.